shooting at Century Theaters, 14300 East Alameda Avenue. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium. 15 and 314, there is at least one person that's been shot, but they're saying there's hundreds of people just running around. Somebody's still shooting inside theater number 9 per an employee.
Somebody's spraying gas in here too.
As the worldwide follows the news in the aftermath of the tragic events that took place in Aurora, Colorado, when a gunman went in a shooting spree that left over 10 dead and several injured, including children, during the opening night of the movie The Dark Knight Rises in a local theater. People are still astonished and lost trying to understand why the perpetrator James Holmes did such thing, as they are fed by sensationalist reports of mainstream media that attempt to induce people into believing that this barbaric crime was an isolated event motivated by the movie.
At first, some thought it was a prank, but what was happening here was all too real. They'd come to see the latest Batman film, but ended up witnessing a killing spree. As they fled, one man, clearly bloodied, is helped away by a police officer. Inside Screen 9 at the Century 16 movie complex, 10 bodies, gunned down, it's thought, by this man, 24-year-old neuroscience graduate James Holmes.
The suspect was dressed all in black. He was wearing a ballistic helmet, a tactical ballistic vest, ballistic leggings, a throat protector and a groin protector, and a gas mask, and black tactical gloves.
However, I have no doubts in my mind about James Holmes being a Manchurian drone who was activated for a specific and sinister purpose, as I'm gonna try to demonstrate with this video. According to information released by mainstream media, Holmes studied and graduated in neuroscience at the University of California, Riverside, and was enrolled last year in a neuroscience PhD program at the University of Colorado, Denver. But what most people ignore is that both universities are facilities of the CIA program MKUltra, among hundreds of other American institutions that are fronts for mind programming experiments for several decades, though they work totally below the radar, staying unnoticed by most Americans.
We also have some new information coming in on the gunman and his background. Our Trace Gallagher has been following this story all morning. He joins us live from our West Coast newsroom. What do we know, Trace?
Horrifying, Allison. You know, last month, 24-year-old James Holmes was a medical student at the University of Colorado studying neuroscience, and for some reason, about a month ago, he just dropped out without explanation. In fact, we are waiting for a statement from the university momentarily. If we get that, we'll read it to you. We have also confirmed that he got his undergraduate degree in neuroscience from the University of California, Riverside, about 70 miles from where we are right now. The question in those would be, does he have some kind of experience with chemicals or explosives through his training in college and in postgraduate school? Now, the question also becomes, what ties did he have to weapons, right? He had 4 guns on him. We're talking about a semi-automatic rifle, a shotgun, and 2 handguns. We know that he has no concealed carry weapon. He has no hunting license. He has no fishing license and no ties to the military, yet he was armed to the teeth. He was also found to have inside his apartment buckets and buckets of ammunition, but again, no ties to the military. Now, Adam was talking about...
While the masses are driven to believe what they are told by the mainstream media, probably also passed unnoticed the strange video aired by CNN one day before the shooting spree, where the news anchor makes a peculiar analysis of what conditions would be necessary to turn an ordinary person into a Batman-like superhero in real life, or by implicit analogy the opposite, a supercriminal. Would it be possible that such video could have had subliminal messages that work as triggers for Manchurian drones? If so, what was the purpose of sending someone to kill and injure several innocent people and make it look like it was a random event?
Christopher Nolan's series of Batman films are known for their more realistic take on the character, attempting to explain just how and why a man can fight crime dressed as a giant bat. But we wanted to take a closer look at just how realistic it is. We broke down the character and asked experts to weigh in on whether a regular human could turn themselves into the Dark Knight. So let's begin with Batman's body. Now, he has no superpowers. He's just an ordinary man, but He's an ordinary man trained to his physical peak and an Olympic-class athlete. Now, needless to say, that's not easy.
It would take 100% effort.
If you were paying attention, the anchor made a direct reference to an Olympic athlete during her analysis of the conditions required to make a hero out of an average individual. And I want you keeping this reference in mind, because later in this video I'm gonna use it to connect this bloody attack in Aurora, Colorado, with a possible upcoming false flag event at London Olympics. But before I do it, I'm gonna bring up another murderous event that happened just one day before, when a suicide bomber killed several tourists in a bus trip in Burgas, Bulgaria.
Now we turn to a big mystery playing out on the world stage. Somebody blew up a bus filled with Israeli tourists. The bomber was carrying a fake American ID, it turns out. 6 people died in the blast. Dozens more were hurt. Investigators want to know who the bomber was and who ordered this. And this, of course, is being felt across a whole region now. Our report tonight from NBC's Martin Fletcher in Tel Aviv.
Shock and panic moments after a bomb blew up a bus full of Israeli tourists in Bulgaria yesterday. Caught on a tourist's smartphone. My family is there, she screamed in desperation. Today, the more than 30 wounded were brought home, 3 in critical condition. 5 Israelis were killed. As for the terrorist, Bulgarian officials say this was him. Could be any tourist from anywhere. Airport security cameras showed him wandering the terminal for an hour. Police say he placed the bomb in the bus's baggage compartment and died in the blast. Police found this Michigan driving license on his remains. Jacques-Philippe Martin from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But it turned out to be a fake. So who was he? His DNA and fingerprints have been circulated to Interpol, the CIA, FBI, Israeli secret services. And another key question, who sent him? Israel again accused Iran and Hezbollah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today.
This attack was part of a global campaign of terror carried out by Iran and Hezbollah. This terror campaign has reached a dozen countries on 5 continents.
Iran called the claim baseless, but Netanyahu said everything must be done to stop, quote, the world's most dangerous regime from developing the world's most dangerous weapon, a nuclear weapon. Israel and Iran are said to be fighting a secret war of assassinations, bombs and cyber warfare. But in the case of this latest attack, Washington wants more proof before accusing Iran. Brian?
Martin Fletcher at NBC News headquarters in Tel Aviv. Martin.
The suspect, identified by Bulgarian authorities as Mehdi Ghezal, a former detainee at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, between 2002 and 2004. A man with several criminal records in Sweden and Portugal, and supposedly connected to Al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Nevertheless, he was freed without any charges by both the Swedish authorities and the U.S. military. The interesting part is that although the bus was entirely destroyed, the Bulgarian authorities had his fake Michigan driver's license in hands in fine conditions, and almost immediately after the blast they quickly had his files, based on his DNA samples. However, in less than 24 hours they started denying his identity after the United States DoD vehemently denied he was the same prisoner of Guantanamo. Perhaps because the accusations of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, immediately accusing Iran of being behind the suicide bomb in Bulgaria, had a very negative repercussion, especially on the internet, where people all over the world seem to be aware that the Zionist cabal is pushing a false flag scenario to justify a war against the Persian nation.
We don't know. We have ideas. From what we saw, he wasn't alone. He had someone with him because the second can of tear gas didn't come from his side. He was completely dressed in black, head to toe. From what we saw, it seemed like he had something over his face, probably to prevent him from breathing it in. And we can only assume that someone got him in because he was hit. Whatever he was wearing seemed thick. So I don't think he would really. I think he'd stand out in a crowd.
Diverging information between eyewitnesses in Aurora, Colorado and local authorities suggests that there was a second shooter in the crime scene, whose identity is being covered up, what strengthens the possibility that this bloodshed was fabricated and not a random event. Matter of fact, the short time window between the suicide bomb in Bulgaria and the killing spree in Colorado, as well as the similar apparatus of authorities to hide details about the perpetrators, strongly suggests that both scenarios were false flag events that very likely not by any coincidence happened just 7 days before the London Olympics, and that's how I see their connection with a possible false flag attack to take place during the Olympic Games.
Headache for Olympic organisers this morning, with thousands of border security staff set to strike the day before the Games begin. Today, reporter Christina Hearn is in London. Chris, good morning. What more can you tell us about this?
Georgie, this is going to cause a huge disruption. Thousands of immigration staff, including those that work at Heathrow Airport, have voted to go on a 24-hour strike the day before the Games. Now, that is Heathrow's busiest day, with 126,000 passengers predicted to fly through. This strike is all over job cuts and also pay. If that's not bad enough for organisers, also news today that train drivers have also voted to go on strike for 3 days during the Games.
In the same day of the suicide bomb attack in Bulgaria, the British mainstream media reported that the staff responsible by the security at UK borders is going to make a mass strike exactly on the eve of the Olympic Games, what means that London will be theoretically opened for the easy access of potential terrorist threats, but that actually will turn out to be agents provocateurs, as well as Manchurian drones. It seems to be the ultimate maneuver of the Illuminati cabal to create a full scenario for a false flag attack during the Games. And in the way I see it, both the attacks in Bulgaria and Colorado served for the purpose of desensitizing people for what they planned for the Olympics. Both tragedies hold subliminal messages pointing out to London. The suicide bomb attack in Bulgaria killed most Israeli tourists. The Olympic Games begin in the same day of the Hebrew mystic date of Tisha B'Av, also called the Jewish 9/11, which marks a series of meaningful tragic events of the Jewish history since ancient times. The killing spree in Aurora happened in the opening night of a very expected event of mass entertainment, just like the Olympic Games. And as long as the movie is called The Dark Knight Rises, the Olympic opening ceremony will display a dark scenario called Satanic Mills. Coincidences? I don't think so.
Did you hear that? What did he say? Allahu Akbar.
Also, is quite interesting that in a time window between both attacks in Bulgaria and Colorado, a young man assaulted the runner who was holding the Olympic torch in the streets of London, screaming Allahu Akbar, which is a common phrase of the Muslim faith that means Allah is greater, and also is a war cry of the Islamic Jihad. Therefore, it takes no Einstein to figure out that whatever happens in London, if it happens, the scapegoats of the Illuminati cabal to be accused worldwide will be Muslims. Very likely a patsy, a single individual helped by a secret apparatus that will make people believe it was a lone wolf attack, like in Bulgaria and Colorado, and in ultimate instance to blame it on Iran, for justifying the unconditional support of the United Nations to the joint United States-Israel-England, in an Armageddon type of war against the Persian nation.